The Charity Board Gamer is made possible by publishers like 25th Century Games. Take a look at the store in the link down below, and stay tuned for a little clip after the show. What's going on, everybody? Hey, it's Chris from Charity Board Gamer. We are once again doing another episode of the Thingamabob Show. Yep, that's. I think that's what we're calling it. Who knows? But hey, just so everybody knows, if you are watching right now, we will not be interacting with the chat vocally, mainly because we are going to be doing this recorded. However, we are going to be interacting with you typey words. This is already a good start. All right. Yeah. Typey words to you, chat thing, my bobber robber. But yeah, so we're going to kind of do this thing again. We've got, of course, tonight we're going to have Rob and Brendan, the designers of Titania Ascending, which is going to come out November 2nd. But yeah, we'll get started in just a few seconds when I can figure out words and how to use them in sentences. So, all right. Sweet. We all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Why am I doing Blue's Clues? Okay. I don't know. All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Thingamabob Show. That's right. It's where Justin, Chelsea, and myself get to have a little bit of fun talking about the games that we love and actually getting a chance to talk to people that, you know, might actually design the games, play the games, do things charity related. Who knows? But tonight we've got a couple special guests. But first, let's start off with saying hello to the wonderful, most amazing person in the world. She moderates like crazy for us. She's up way too late when she does. The lovely Chelsea.
Hey, I'm Chelsea, and you can find me at Chelka's Corner. And I tend to encourage Chris's chaos, and we always need, our keeper he keeps us in check. So we need him.
Wait, we need Chris to keep us in check?
No, we need our keeper, which is you.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
that was my segue to you. You're a keeper who keeps us, from doing.
Thanks. I enjoy being a keeper. I'm Justin of Play Games Spread Joy. You can always find me with Chris helping out and whatnot. But of course, it's not about just us. It's about our guests as well. Chris, tell us who our guests are tonight.
Well, tonight we have Brendan and we also have Rob, the designers of some fancy schmancy game. I don't know what this is, but it's called Titania Ascending. Rob, Brendan, say hello.
Hello.
You can actually talk there, Rob.
Wait. Oh, talking. I thought you were still working on the words. No. Hey, so glad to be here. Thanks for having us. I am so excited.
So you've got this game called Titania Ascending. It's coming out to Kickstarter November 2nd. Where'd the idea of the game come from?
That's a super question. It really, it sort of came from right here where we are now. We started working on this in the first days of the initial lockdown. We were trying to figure out a fun, cooperative game that we could put together that would play well remote. And you know what? I'll let you guys be the judge.
Well, if I can add in, I would say those things that Rob said are all true, but he's being modest in that often in our design process, he comes with some question that I haven't heard asked before, or I haven't heard asked in a particular way. And that's often how our designs start. And this one in particular was, how come when you play a roll and write and you fill up your sheet, then it's over? And as far as the design goes, that as I recall, that was the starting place.
That was the kernel
for us figuring that out. Yeah.
And I felt like when I asked that question and Brendan said, "Yeah, I don't know of anyone who's doing that," I was like, "Quick, we have to get to market." A year and a half later. But yeah, it's been a really it's been such a cool design experience because all of our design up to this point we've been in the same room, sitting across the table from each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've been playtesting with people, you know, who are in our local design community, and this has really been the lens through which we've experienced game design in this strange moment. So we were playtesting this game with people in Germany and Brazil and far-flung places like Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I hear that's a very exotic place.
You have to get shots to be able to go there. There's definitely some visa issues as well. But
they're always suggesting you add cheese to the game, and you know sometimes you can't do that. It's like no cheese in this game.
But it was really cool to be able to be involved with a wider group of people in some regards than we would have normally, in a way that's maybe not. It's a little counterintuitive, you know. Yeah.
So, so you said that it was over the course of the pandemic, you all were able to kind of put this game together. Was there any other games that kind of inspired you? Like you said, you filled out a sheet and we're kind of wondering, okay, now we're done. What kind of created that process? Now you run the game in like 2 phases.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide, hey, let's go ahead and have the filling in side and the shading side?
Well, that's that was sort of the initial kernel. And actually, if you really, is it just us here? There's, right?
Absolutely. It's just us.
Cone of silence, The one of the other germs of this was there's a game that you can look for as soon as 2023. It's a game we have called Hindsight, and this initially used some components. It was sort of the roll and write version of that. So I guess the game that inspired it was another game that we're publishing later.
Yeah, and in that game, the beginning part where you have a grid of, it's a 6x6 grid. I know that sounds like a strange set of numbers. In that one, there's dice that land in the grid at the beginning, and then you pull the dice out. And so the way that we conceived of that in this context was filling in the grid with things and then shading them in to show that we've used them. Was sort of the initial spread. I don't think that the Hindsight roll and write theme lasted more than like a month. And then we were
less than that.
Yeah. Then we started brainstorming other themes. For a while, this was a game about farming and an idiosyncratic queen who wanted weird crops harvested in specific shapes, and like she was going to be mad if you harvested in a different shape. And that was the theme for a long time. We got quite a ways, and then basically when we got to playtesting with other people in significant numbers, people were like, yeah, it's a fun game, but the theme is so boring.
What, you've heard of a farming game before?
Yeah.
I thought we invented that. That was what I thought was unique.
So
I guess talking about the theme, what I guess got you to jump from the farming to what it is now?
Well, I think once we decided it's not going to be farming, then we experimented with other things. We talked about, for a little while, it was building a colony on the moon. I think that was one of the ones we experimented with. But we really liked, I think the core of that initial idea was the idea of an idiosyncratic ruler, somebody who's going to give you weird commands. And so for people who are trying Titania Ascending in its final form, you'll see that when Titania is leading the invasion in the second half, she's calling for arrangements of troops that are these weird shapes, right, that fit her current plans. And so that's, that kernel of the weird leader who wants us to do those things came in. But I think the shift to this particular theme got us thinking about, like, well, where else do you do a thing and then do a thing with those things? Like we experiment with a bunch of different sets of nouns, sort of mad-libbed it. And one of the things we came up with was, well, you arrange an army and then you invade with that army. And that's far more militaristic than our current Titania Ascending. That theme is there, but it's not it's not, it doesn't feel, I don't think, super military,
Mhm.
even though that is ostensibly the narrative. But yeah, I think the core of the different do a thing and then do stuff with that thing combinations that we came up with, this one sort of had the most legs.
So the other thing, if I can, is we at XYZ Game Labs, we don't do a project if everyone doesn't love it. And once we started getting into this idea of the fairy realm, and a fairy realm that's interacted with the earthly realm, and so you sort of get into this like fae punk, it just kept getting more and more fun to build that world out. And when the art started coming in from the team we have working on this, we just kept getting more and more excited.
So I know a lot of the games from XYZ have been primarily competitive. So what was the difference in designing a game that was co-op versus competitive, in your experience?
Well, Brendan and I have developed in our partnership a lot of games together, and developing games with XYZ Game Labs is something we've been doing for years. But it wasn't until just this spring that we formally joined XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of there's a chocolate and peanut butter thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've designed how many games, Brendan, are like, could we send them a print and play of?
A couple dozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of those are co-op and some of those are versus. But what the team at XYZ is, one of the things that they're incredible at is making things and dreaming big. I don't know if anyone here was at, I do know some of you were at Gen Con and saw what they did to the doors at Gen Con and the planters out front. And next year we're going even bigger. But, bringing this game to fruition with them has been a dream.
I think the other thing that was, in terms of designing this as a co-op, that was an interesting design challenge was the second half of that initial question when Rob says, do you ever do anything with the sheet? Mm-hmm. And then as we start looking at it a little bit, in hindsight, the game that was the sort of core starting place is also a co-op, was the question of, well, co-op, is co-op a thing? Because in our partnership, I tend to be the one who spends a lot of time on Board Game Geek. I'm the one who sort of keeps track of all of the new releases that are coming out, and I'm constantly chasing the cult of the new. And so often when we're talking about something happening, if we come up with a piece of design or an idea, I'm the one who'll go like, yeah, there's nine deck builders that do that already. And Rob's like, well, what about this one? I'm like, I've never heard of any that do that, right? And so cooperative flip and write or roll and write is just not a thing that's very common. There's like a couple roll and writes, and as far as we know, there's no other flip and writes. We've done a lot of looking around to be able to make that claim so that we don't have someone pop up and say, well, what about this one? Mm-hmm. And so the challenge of that then, right, is there are some challenges that always come from designing cooperative games. One of the big ones is, how do you keep it from being either entirely solo, so you're not really cooperating, or you have somebody who's going to quarterback the whole thing, or you risk the quarterback problem. So a flip and write gives you a particularly good set of options for that, because everyone's got their own thing that they're doing. So it's not easily quarterbacked in terms of, I'm drawing my map. It's pretty complicated. So it's hard for you to draw your map and manage mine. Yep. But then we also wanted to build in some things where we have to talk to each other, so that it's not just a solo experience.
Yep.
And I feel like we did both of those well.
From my experience playing, I definitely agree on that. Those were some of the big things, like playing a lot of games with Chelsea and her husband. Like, they don't like co-ops as much because of the quarterback problem. And then as soon as I played this, I realized how much that takes that out of the equation, and then it encourages communication so much, and it was such a big hit as soon as I learned that.
That might be the thing I've been the happiest about now that this is more out in the world, like watching a play where I'm not playing and watching people interact in like, oh, if I do this, then that thing you just said was your problem. We can solve that. And just like, the table talk, when people are winning, they're talking constantly in this game, which just delights me.
Yeah, I know when we played it with some people at Origins, the thing that I really enjoyed was we did communicate. It's like, hey, can somebody get a crown? Can somebody get a hammer? And we're all trying to communicate and plan that out. Okay, because we all want to be able to make the shape work too. So we're communicating as well. Hey, can everybody fit this polyomino style shape, into this 6x6 space? Because if not, we pass. We're out of. We're basically we can't do anything else that phase. And so it's so important to talk through what you're doing. So like I might be looking at the dragon pattern, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, I want that because it's got this sweet little kind of like a T shape with a space missing out of the top, and like I want that. But my wife might be like, that's not going to fit. That's not going to fit. And of course, you only have the gray area to really fill in the beginning, and it's not until you actually get to the ascension phase that you're filling in the purple area to kind of help you mitigate those risks of covering up Fae and dragons as you're playing the game. Which I like that a lot. Chelsea, what were some questions you had?
So it was more of a comment. Piggybacking on what you were saying, I played a 2-player game. It was the last game we played at our meetup. And I asked Adam, I was like, do you still have a copy? Because I missed out when you played earlier. Can you teach me? He's like, only if you let me play with you. And I was like, absolutely. And I haven't had that much fun with a co-op in forever. It was just, it was like, okay, so I was like, well, I can get a crown this turn. We coordinated, and then just the back and forth without having to tell somebody, oh, well, you need to do this. And then he was like, okay, well, we managed to have like 2 4s, and he was like, I don't know that we're going to get this done. So then we were trying to figure out how to cycle the tiles out so we can refill the bag and hopefully get that other 4, because all the 4s were out already. And we managed it on the very last turn. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was like, well, this has been the best game ever. It was just so different. And, it's smaller at first, and then it's bigger. And, the second half, you have more space, and you think you have all this space, but you really don't. So you got to coordinate and plan.
Yeah. Until you start playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this is easy. I'll just start throwing things in there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't work anymore. So.
Well, that's awesome. That's music to my ears. Our friend Jason Brooks, who's the designer of just a super crunchy Euro Legacies, which should be, hopefully it'll be getting off the boat before too long. He was one of the first people who played this outside of Brendan and myself, and that playing in the middle at the beginning and in the outside in the second half is one of his favorite parts of the game. He was like, I like that.
And, well, how did you come up with that concept? Because it's usually you have the whole map to do your thing. So how did you come up with the 2 different sizes, I guess, or areas?
I know what I think it was.
Yeah, take it.
So Rob did the initial designs of the divination side, the phase 1 side of the cards, and then in what I think is a genius bit of economy, the phase 2 cards are the other squares. So if you go through and look at all the phase 1 graph in the 3x3 grid, and you look at those, the parts that aren't filled in are the shapes that are in the phase 2 section of the game. But those are all bigger. So if you were to play on the same board, you just don't have enough room. So adding in the other row on the outside for the second half was sort of necessity by card design. That's how I recall it happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure it was my idea to add that extra ring.
Oh,
I'm not sure of that. I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, one of the other things, if I can, I don't know how appropriate it is for the designer to be talking about how much they like the game, but one of my favorite things about the move, and this is, when I think to games I really enjoy, one of the things I like about it is that at the beginning there's a feeling of that's different than at the end. So, for example, in this game, when that first raft of vision cards comes out and you see the different shapes, every time I play this, and we've played it hundreds of times, I look at those shapes and I'm like, there's no way I can make those shapes fit into a nice box. And we're at the point now where we're really good at it. So like we play with a lot of the harder difficulty cards in there, and but I'm pretty good at making those shapes like link together and stuff. But at the beginning, it always feels scary. And then Chelsea, like you said, when you get to shift to that second phase, and suddenly you have that breathing room of that extra space, and you get that one card where you're like, oh, I could just fit this in the corner. I'm not covering up anything. Oh, it feels so good.
King of the world.
That's right. So yeah, so I think we've done a little bit of editing of the card shapes, but I think just because of the symmetry of the second phase shapes being the opposite of the first phase, they fit together in a way that is surprising and really pleasing.
Very cool.
Well, talking about things that fit together and are really pleasing, we're going to lead into what our tonight's top 5 topic is going to be. And leading off of that, this is the first co-op flip and right. We're doing our top 5 co-op games. So part of that is, I know we mentioned it to y'all before we started the recording. Y'all are welcome to join in on that as you wish. Do not feel obligated to even have 5 if you only have a couple.
How to do it? You can't say no.
I'm in.
Yeah. So the rest of us have already created our kind of top 5, but we will not be talking about them in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 order. It's just kind of how they come up.
no.
I can't do that.
My brain doesn't work with numbers
Yeah,
or words.
Yeah, for everyone's brain's sake, we're not doing them in order, just our top 5 in general that we enjoy. Kind of depends on who you play with, how many people you get to play with, stuff like that. But we're going to start off with Chelsea because I know she does not play as many of the co-ops because like we already talked about potential quarterback issues and stuff that you find in some. So Chelsea, what was one of yours that you had listed?
So the first one I'm going to talk about is Time Stories. We haven't played many of the extra expansions that have come out. We've only done the second one. I think it's Marcy Diaries or something along those lines. I'm horrible with names, but it was so much fun. It gives you kind of a escape room type of vibe, but you still need to do your own thing. So, and the time element, the temporal units moving down, and having to pick up on clues and trying to talk about them, it was a really good experience. And one of the things I really did enjoy was if you have to stop for whatever reason, it gives you instructions on how to like stop it in the middle and like preset everything. And for somebody who forgets everything, that was like a good thing for me. Like, nice. I'm like, wait, what did we do last week? Or what did I play last week? So that was a good like, I guess, marketing thing for me at least. I really did enjoy that.
Nice.
Yeah. So then Chris, I think you are up next. Since we're talking about time games.
So you're talking about time games. Now, one of our cooperative games that we really enjoy playing in our home, it was one of the first ones we added to our collection, was 5 Minute Marvel by Spin Master. And something about that game, just the fact that it's got the app, which will count down a little bit, which helps you with keeping track. Because seriously, sometimes when you have like a little timer in front of you, I'm not paying attention to that. I need something to tell me. I'm ADD as can be. Plus, one of my all-time favorite things about it is that you can play as Squirrel Girl. A lot of fun. I mean, one of my favorite superheroes, the one that single-handedly defeated Thanos without even knowing that she was fighting the real Thanos. She thought she was fighting like an android. She beat the snot out of Thanos. So, hands down, 5-minute Marvel. Justin, you've got a Marvel game. What's the one that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I have a Marvel game because I did not have a timed-based game per se, like y'all did. I have Legendary, a Marvel deck building game.
Nice.
Because the majority of that is, of course, co-op. You're playing together to face off against whichever villain you decide to have in, and the ability to mix in all the different characters and heroes that you want to be able to use. So whoever is playing, you can like, oh, that's my favorite hero. That's my favorite hero. You can throw them in and kind of each build a different deck as you play. So it feels like you're playing your own style. You can't really take over someone else's because like they're making their own deck. What they draw is completely theirs to figure out how to play their deck, but then coming together and kind of telling that story works really well, in my opinion, at least. Of course, I've enjoyed a lot of the Legendary lineup, but Marvel was kind of the first one I hit on, and all the expansion they have was one of my favorites. What about Brendan or Rob? Do y'all have a top co-op game?
Brendan, you jump in.
Sure. I would say with regard to time ticking down, my family has enjoyed all 4 boxes and every mystery in the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective line. There's a co-op game where you're trying to solve a mystery. You read newspapers, you go around and investigate. In the newest one, the Baker Street Irregulars set that just came out from Space Cowboys, that one has a couple new mechanisms in it where you'll like, when you visit a person, you get a letter that you get to mark off, and then when you see someone later, they're like, if you have letter E marked off, read this other paragraph instead. So it's got a little bit more progression, which I think is really neat. And that one has this delicious thing where every time you go to another place, your score is going down. Because at the end, you compare how many places did you go to how many places did Sherlock go, and you find out how dumb you are. And it's super fun. So yeah, I love Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
I have one, and I think it fits both of these, and yet it also doesn't, because I guess I'm obstreperous. I'm going to throw out Last Night on Earth, the zombie game by Flying Frog. In it, you're either zombies working together to try and eat all of the delicious humans' brains, or you're humans trying to survive one of many different scenarios that are laid out for you. And one of the things that's always in the scenario is set the timer for how many rounds you're going to have. And it's a beautiful game because so often it's that thing you were talking about, Chelsea, where you just get down to that last moment and it's just, is it going to be us or is it going to be you? I've been saving this horrible card that I'm going to play when you, oh, now you're a zombie. You guys lose her. But maybe I'm cheating because it's also a competitive game. Don't tell anyone. It's also competitive.
You can have co-op games where at the end you kind of like who did better. So it still counts.
But, it's also so thematic. Beautiful.
So for our second game, I'm going to piggyback off of Brendan's choice of the Sherlock stuff because one of mine was Beyond Baker Street.
Ooh, that's so good.
And so the way that it forces everyone to play their cards towards everyone else. So there's always information that you don't have, but again, you're solving the case along the way. So it completely takes out that quarterbacking because everyone's missing some kind of information, so no one can take over in any way.
Nice.
It plays pretty fast, and that it's 30 minutes or less. And so it's easy to play again if you mess up or you don't pass it, or you just need something faster. And it's such a small box, kind of one of those throw in your bag and take it with you co-ops that you don't have as many of.
Yeah. And I'm gonna piggyback off your Baker Street.
And play some saxophone?
Yes. Crazy amounts of saxophone. Do.
But watch the Baker's piggyback here that we got going on.
No, see, when you said Baker, I automatically thought of one of my games on the list, Kim Joy's Magic Bakery, which is from Skybound Tabletop. I love the fact that you're basically trying to complete these different recipes. Coming from a restaurant mindset, when I used to work restaurants and everything like that. Having to have the right ingredients is so important. And I like it because you feel like you're working in a kitchen, passing the ingredients to different players, and there's obstacles in the way, including a cat, which is nice. You've got to pet the cat to move it out of the way. It's a neat little thing. And there's like all these different scenarios that just kind of mess everything up. Some ingredients might be flipped upside down. You don't know what the ingredients are, causes problems. But that is the game that I would have to recommend as well. So, oh yeah.
So since we're talking about like 30-minute or less games, one of the ones we really enjoyed was Quirky Circuits. It has like a little like meeple of a dog, or there's a cat, different ones, there's a little robot, and you gotta like move them around the room to pick up the dust and then bring them back to the charging station. So they're riding like little Roombas, and you can't talk. You just have to play cards, and you gotta like figure out if the person you're playing with or the people you're playing with are putting down the cards because you put them face down, and then you'll kind of decide to stop. So if you move too much or you go backwards, it'll bump into the furniture and then like spin around and then go and keep going in circles. And like, oh no, I got it. I can resolve this. I can fix it. And then they think they're fixing it too at the same time. So you keep rotating and bumping into things, and it's just just fun. It's, not too much strategy and just trying to think like the other person. So we've really enjoyed Quirky Circuits.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, sure.
It does not have to be 30 minutes or less.
No.
Okay. I have
It has to
way
be.
under.
Everything has to be 30 minutes or less.
Has to fit our
If not,
theme every
if not,
time.
it's free, right?
I have one that's way under 30 minutes.
Okay.
And it's a hoot, and it is a true, I'm not cheating, full on co-op.
There's no such thing as cheating here. You're good.
Okay. Brendan and I were taught this one by the designer at Gen Con on the floor
Ooh, I know
in
you're going.
2019. It's Heist. I hope we've all played this. There's a blue bank vault in the middle of the table, and there are 8 objects. And when you're playing, you press a button on the blue bank vault, and it starts telling everyone what they have to do. Everyone's got a roll, and you have to pass the drill to the explosive expert, and then the map has to go to the getaway driver, and then everyone press your button, and the thing's telling you what to do, and as you go, the lid to the thing in the middle, if you're doing well, it starts creeping up, and if you succeed, it pops up, and gold bars spill out onto the table. And if you fail, you have to try again.
It teases you.
It does tease you, but
It is a hoot.
it's a hoot. And I don't know, what does a game last? 4 minutes?
Yeah, it's really short.
And it has scaling difficulty. I think it has 6 levels, 5 levels you can choose, and then if you play through the 6th level or the 5 levels, 1 to 5, it'll let you into the 6th. You can't choose to go to that.
I don't think I've won the 5th level though. It is really hard.
Yeah.
So my game is not short. But I was inspired by Chelsea's conversation about trying to solve a problem and then misanticipating when other people are going to try to solve that problem. My family has chewed through 80-some scenarios of Gloomhaven, and it's one of our favorite co-ops. It is a little longer than a half an hour, but in Gloomhaven, you're not allowed to tell the other players when you're going to go. You can kind of say, I'm going to go early or I'm going to go late, but different characters, early and late. Like for a long time, I was playing a character whose early was 30 and out of 100. And I had I think my daughter had a thing, their latest card was like 32. So me saying early didn't mean anything to her. But so often there would be this moment where you both are going to do something and you actually have to on the fly change what you're doing because that guy is dead. The guy you were going to go after is not there anymore. And now you're going to attack or you're going to waste this really good attack card or whatever. So Gloomhaven would be my not short, but really involves timing and careful timing. So there you go.
So I also have Gloomhaven on my list. And when we first started playing, I started with my husband. We played, and I guess didn't explain myself very well, and he didn't understand me very well, to the point that we played that night and we lost. And we're like, okay, well, we'll leave it out. We'll play tomorrow when we get home from work. I got a text message next day at work, and he's like, we got to communicate better. Like, this can't happen in games. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just a game. And he was thinking about this all day at work, of how we need to explain ourselves better without, breaking the rules, and working together, and planning what we're doing and discussing it. It was this long message. And I was like, thank you, games. You have improved our communication skills.
Add another thing to Isaac Childress's long list of awesome qualities.
Yeah.
So we all know that Gloomhaven has a little bit of map movement, because of course you're trying to move around, trying to attack the enemies, but you don't know when everyone's going to do it. So I had a game that's also kind of map movement, Sleeping Gods. It's newer. Haven't played it a huge amount, but from my experience with this so far, getting to play with Chris, immediately was hooked with the story elements of it and kind of the choices you're getting to make throughout it. And it also works really well in the way it's set up. Okay, one person's making the choices, so the other person can kind of read off the story to them and not reveal too much of what the choice is going to be, if they make that choice. And then how it sets it up, so each player has a set of the characters, and so you can only interact with the map or those choices with what you have, and the crew you have in front of you works really well. And you're trying to mitigate a little bit of their health and their abilities and how they help the crew overall. I've really enjoyed that. Chris, I believe you had a game that has, I guess you can call it map movement.
I guess so. I mean, you are traveling across the world trying to stop diseases and things and viruses. It's a small game from some, unknown designer, Matt Leacock. I don't know who this guy is.
Oh, the guy who designed Nitwit.
Did he really? Yeah. Yeah. So he designed a game called Pandemic. I don't think many people have heard of it. It's not, it's not like it's in big box stores or anything, but there's so much fun when you're playing that game and you're trying to go ahead and you're communicating, saying, hey, I can go to these places and remove these different cubes. And hey, can you, set up, a quarantine zone? Can we go ahead and make can we do something with the virus? Can we somehow eradicate the virus? And I like it that the game, you can do it almost two different ways. You can say, okay, we're just going to go ahead and create the cures and win that way. But I like the challenge of, once you've created the cures, trying to eradicate all of the viruses before they spread and causing a pandemic. So, it's a fitting game, especially with 2020 and 2021. To be playing it. And I know that they just recently came out with a World of Warcraft version, which looks really cool. I know we're going to be getting that on our tables sometime soon to play. But something about Pandemic, it's one of those games where it was my first cooperative experience, and so I fell in love with it immediately. But yeah, that's Pandemic. What about you all?
Well, I've been playing a game a fair amount the last couple months that is sort of pandemic-like. I sort of think of it as for me, it's a replacement for Arkham Horror, the classic game where you're running around trying to fight off mythos, and that's Victoriana. Victoriana is a game about fighting various Victorian literature ne'er-do-wells in London in the turn of the century. It's sort of like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the board game. You play as the Invisible Man, or as Nina Harker, or as Sherlock Holmes, and you're running around trying to stop all these various small problems that the villains are putting up, and then as time goes on, you reveal their big scheme, and then you have to try to solve their elaborate final problem. It is not the best game from a mechanical standpoint. Like, I don't find myself texting my wife about how we have to cooperate better the next day about it. But it is the theme is really fun, and it's a nice it's a nice sort of callback to those, to use a pejorative phrase, Ameritrash games that I liked a lot, and it very thematic, really fun, trying to figure out how to stop the big bad from ruining London. So yeah, Victoriana.
Cool. Rob, how about you?
Yeah, my family really started gaming in the last 18 months together, all 5 of us together. And I'm always surprised by what games they latched onto. But one that really made them think, Chris, you're talking about Pandemic, and Chelsea, you're talking about like a game that sticks in your head. Pandemic: The Cure. I don't know what it was about that game, but it just for days afterwards, I think if I had done this in the second half, I think we could have done better. I think we almost won. They're like, we just have to get it back to the table. We just have to get it back to the table. And I'm one who'd be inclined to say you can't argue with results.
Yeah, very true.
Very true.
I think the game that makes me think the most afterwards of what we could have done different or maybe communicated better.
I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's
talking something about. I played with Chris, and we played completely different, but somehow worked together on it, is Kingdom Rush. We actually played it on stream, and it was just the way it was. He was total chaos. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to work around him because it's just going to be that way. But just how well it worked together, and like you can have those different play styles, but still mesh them. And that he can like, okay, I'm going to rush in and attack these. Now, I'm going to squeeze in here and do this, or you can really both be that way, or you can just attempt to be chaotic all the way and still have fun with it, kind of throwing down those shapes and trying to cover all those different encroaching monsters on down the path. Was really fun for me. And then of course, just the table presence of that game itself. And especially if you have the little towers to place the cards on and the little miniatures that you can use with it, just kind of bring it all together for me. Talking about games with invading forces, I think, Chris, you had something somewhat similar.
Maybe not so much invading forces, but Atlantis Rising. Atlantis Rising by Elf Creek Games.
Guys, I paused Chris because I want to have a conversation with you about some things here.
Whoa.
I think he's great, but
he's back.
Oh no,
Chris, slow down for a second.
You're
Pause.
good. I'll slow down. Okay, slowing down.
There we go.
Because your sound was catching up to you, so it was like,
it was weird. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll have to cut that out later.
Yeah, we'll cut that out in editing. I don't know why I did that, but that's so weird. It's the wonderful world of the internet. However, at least it's running. Okay, so for me, we're talking about invading forces. It's maybe not so much invading forces. It's more looming threats, and that is the game Atlantis Rising. It's from Elf Creek Games. It's the 2nd edition. I never played the 1st edition, which I think was Z-Man Games before that. I'm not sure. But there's something neat about having the place of Atlantis, and as you are trying to get these special artifacts and get out of Atlantis and warp through this kind of like almost like Stargate. No, it's not officially called a Stargate, but still, it looks like a Stargate. So you're trying to get through it, and you're trying to get out of there, out of Dodge, before all the water starts to slowly cover the land. And at some point, as the water's covering it, you're not able to do different actions that would help you out. So you're really having to watch the way you roll, watch the way you play. And it just kind of gets worse, and it gets very dire if you don't play it right. And I like the fact that it also plays, if I'm correct, it plays up to 7 players. Whoa. So 7 players for a game is kind of a big deal. For me, as a family, we try to play cooperative games that can play about 5. Reason being, we have our youngest, he's 10. It's not fun being like, hey, do you want to team up with mom or team up with dad? Because the brother and sister aren't going to do it. So it's better for him to actually be able to play a game rather than sit out or be on a team, because it just doesn't work that well. But yeah, I have to say Atlantis Rising, a lot of fun. Chelsea, you have one where people are trying to invade some sort of like island or something. You're trying to stop it. What's that about?
Yes. So I have Spirit Island, and it's
Nice.
yeah, everybody has like their own spirit. You're playing as spirits, and you're trying to stop the invaders from taking over the land. And as you progress, it gets a little bit harder, and starts a little bit easier. And everybody has their own board, a little bit different. So everybody's doing something related to their element. So like some are water, like you can throw the invaders into the water and get rid of them. There's like a lightning one. So everything, the asymmetrical characters, and the fact that you have your own hand, even though it's a co-op, the theme, I think they implemented it super well there, where we're not like, oh, well, you should do this. You have your own hand, and you still talk about it and communicate about it, but it's just, it was refreshing to play it. It was different. And we play somebody else's copy, and we're like, okay, we definitely need to get this. This has to be, we have to get this, and it has to be part of our collection.
Nice. Well, and what about you, Brendan? We'll go to you on this one.
Actually, the first half of, I knew we were talking about Spirit Island, Chelsea, but the first half of what you described could have described my next game as well. I'm going to go back into the dark old ages of like 10 years ago. Antoine Bauza's Ghost Stories is one of my favorite co-ops. Now, I will say this is out of print, so there's a new one that called Bastion that is apparently very similar. They redid a little bit of it, but if you wanted to try that, that's probably more easily available. But I really like the old Ghost Stories. It does suffer if you don't have a team where you can all just sort of talk about it together and really get along. It could easily suffer from the quarterbacking problem, because it is so hard and you have so few actions. You get like 2 actions per turn, and moving is an action. So like you can do hardly anything in this game, and the ghosts are constantly streaming into your village, and they're all horrible. And I mean, I really like it. And I've gotten to the point where I can win about half the time on the basic level, but like I've never even kind of won on the next notch up. And there's like 4 notches of difficulty, so I don't understand some people, but it's really fun. And it's one of those games where when you figure out something about how the game works, then your skill level like noticeably goes up because you figured out some piece of the dynamic. The first thing I figured out for me is you should never be relying on the dice to solve a problem. And the game feels like you should. You're rolling dice all the time or often, but the dice are totally a bonus. If you're ever relying on the dice to solve a problem, you're probably behind the 8 ball and you're going to lose.
The dice are a lie.
Yeah. Boy, I like that game. Ghost Stories from Antoine Bauza and Repost Productions.
Very cool.
How about you, Rob?
Well, I mean, I hate to be honest, but I'm going to be.
Do it. Go for it.
Nice.
So, USAopoly, Prospero Hall. One day I'm at the thrift store, and there on the shelf is a copy of Hogwarts Battle. It was about a year old at that time. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Brought it home, and over the winter break, I brought out this box about this big, and I said to my family, if we beat this game, we can open this box, and there's something in there you'll enjoy. And I'm not going to tell you anything else about it. My wife is what I like to refer to as a reluctant gamer. She vehemently doesn't identify as a gamer. We played through that whole game. Every night we came back to that game. We did not modify it at all. We played the rules as written. And darn it, if we didn't finish it, and it was a little Google Nest speaker. But like I got my wife to play one game 11 times. Like that's unheard of. Props to Prospero Hall.
Yeah,
I remember getting that game and playing it through in like 3 days. Like just every night after work, we just okay, next one, and it was like, and like we played it so much and like all the different player counts. And so yeah, I agree. It's such a solid game the way it works. I know it's not perfect by all means, but it has some great elements to it.
Well, the problems I have aren't with that game.
But yeah, notwithstanding, it goes beyond outside the game itself. But but talking about playing games with family and stuff, I think the last game on my list is a little bit easier to play with family. It's The Crew. It kind of goes back to a lot simpler mechanics that you can get potentially non-gamers to join in on if they're used to standard card games such as hearts and spades and stuff. And that, we just need to win this trick a certain way. Help whoever needs to meet that goal. And then it has all the different missions, so it's very thematic, and that it changes each time. It's not just every time you want to win with the high card or whatever it may be. So setting everyone up to play together in that way, I found really nice.
No doubt.
What else? Chelsea, what else is on your list?
So the very last one on my list is Endangered. So it comes. I have the Kickstarter copy, so it came with like a panda expansion, and it has like little scenarios of how like you set up, and they have their own little deck, and you're trying to save the whatever. So there's tigers, and I think there's otters, and I think there's pandas, and you're trying to save them, and you're rolling dice, and the more tigers you have. So we've played the tiger multiple times. When you have the tigers out, you're trying to get more tigers on the board, and then there's like ambassadors from other countries, and you're trying to get them to pass whatever legislation to save these animals and protect them. And you, at the end of the game, you have to have 4 yes votes, and you have to put influence on them and like coordinate, because the actions, if there's we play a lot of 2 players games. If there's 2 players, your dice that you're placing has to be 2 numbers higher than the other one. So if you're playing a 4, it has to be a 6. So you got to be like, okay, well, do you have a card to play? Because there's only one action right now out there that lets you, so I can't play it. So you have to coordinate. And I'm always a sucker for themes. Like if it's cute or has any sort of animals, I will dive right in. I won't even look at what it is. I'll just go in, and it's saving animals, and they just are fulfilling the expansion right now. So I always back that as well. So it was, we play like the middle one, and by the end we're like, gosh, like, come on. Like we just want, like we were doing fine. And then all of a sudden it just went downhill. There's like impact cards that like cost like their oil spills if it's the otters, or deforestation, different things. So each scenario plays a little bit different. So it's not the same game every time.
Nice. So for me, it's going to be my last one, is the one that kind of got me more involved into gaming and actually got me getting to the point where so the person that introduced this game to me introduced me to Envoy, which led to me actually teaching games for different publishers at conventions and stores. It actually led to the collection that I have today. And the game is Thanos Rising from the Op. There's something nice when you can sit around a table, and we luckily we had the Thor expansion, so we were able to play it with 5 players. So perfect cooperative experience to be able to have my boys and my daughter. Death Eater Rising, great game too. Of course we talked about, we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, Thanos Rising, that was, I think, Andrew Wolf originally designed it, and now Pat's taken that and tweaked it and worked it into some really good iterations. But the whole base is Thanos, he's coming. He's trying to get the Infinity Stones. You've got to stop him from getting the Infinity Stones. You have to defeat villains within that amount of time, And if you lose any heroes, a certain amount of heroes, usually it's 10 heroes, 7 villains is what you want to do for a basic, easy game. And if you do it, you win. However, Thanos wins if he collects all the Infinity Stones. And it gets harder because as he collects them, when he collects them, the powers start activating anytime you roll that dice. And then his goal is to defeat you. So when he turns, he'll activate villains. So Proxima Midnight might activate. Then Ebony Maw might activate. Ebony Maw is brutal, but like they'll just deal attack. And if you run out of health as an individual player on all your characters that you have that you've recruited, you're out of the game that way too. So it just becomes just a dire game. But when I taught it, and I taught it to my sons. And then we had a game night at a local church. And so there's a lot of youth. And we're talking about maybe age ranges of 8, 9, and 10 all around the table. And I'm just teaching the game. So anytime we rolled the Thanos die, we'd be like, ooh. And anytime the kids recruited a hero, there'd be high fives and everything. Kids dressed up in Marvel outfits. That was the one thing that we did. We made it kind of like a Marvel themed night. So it was a blast, and that is by far, that game will not leave my collection. If I have to get rid of some games, because at some point it will happen.
Never.
It's called, well, I mean, looking at Justin's Kalax, I'm thinking to myself, I can't get to that level. But the idea is that is one game that will stay because it not only has the attachment of memories, but it also is just a lot of fun. The op has proved to me that it's not just Monopoly. And that's because that's all I knew the op for, or USAopoly at the time. That's all I knew, because still getting new into games, I was like, that's what, 2018. So I'm still learning games. And I'm like, oh, this is by the people they make Monopoly. That's why. Do I want to, I mean, really? But no, I've been very pleased with what they've done. I mean, I seriously have on my shelf Munchkin, the Harry Potter version, Die Hard, Fantastic Beasts, Blank Slate, Dungeon Academy, Astro Trash, Hughes and Hughes, Escapes from Haunted Mansion, The Coded Chronicles, Samurai Jack, Harry Potter, Hogwarts Battle, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Gemstone Mining. Yes, it's a Snow White game and it's for 7 players. All right, Toy Story, Obstacles and Adventures, Talisman Batman, Munchkin X-Men, Munchkin Disney,
A little bit of everything.
Marvel Code.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. But before we go too far
yeah.
into that, let's give Brennan and Rob another chance to get their last of the top 5. And
all right.
Well, I started. Oh, all right, Rob.
No, we'll start with Brendan.
Oh, okay.
Let's start with that. I want to finish it out.
I started with a murder mystery, and I'm going to end with a murder mystery. One of the games my family really enjoys is Mysterium. This is a game where you are a group of psychics and you're trying to solve an old murder mystery, and one player gets to be the ghost. And my kids always fight about who gets to be the ghost, and because it's super fun. But boy, trying to understand what your 12-year-old means when they put a card down in front of you is just. But it's such a delight. It's a delightful game. If for people who've never played it, you're getting these psychic messages from the ghost, and they're these cards that are these surreal bits of beautiful art, very much like the cards that are in Dixit. In fact, if you need more cards, you can just stick the Dixit cards into this game, and it works fine. And you're trying to figure out which of the possible suspects the ghost is telling you to focus on, and then you work your way through locations and suspects and weapons, and then at the end there's this sort of end game where you try to figure out which one is the real murderer. And it is a lot of fun. It's got great atmosphere. There's enough game there that it's really fun for people who like a meatier game experience, but it is also accessible enough. That's a game I don't have a problem showing to somebody who's never played games before, because mechanically it's super simple, so you can jump right in. And when you're the ghost, it's really fun to listen to how people are, like, there's actually a strategy there. You listen to how people are talking about the cards you've handed them, and then you can say to yourself, like, oh, this person always focuses on the color, so now I'm going to give them cards that fit the color. And of course, when you do that, they've figured out that you're focusing on shapes, so they start reinterpreting the cards in a different way. It's a delight.
It's also a nice game because it has you agreeing with your family or friends, because when you're the ghost, you're thinking, how are these people so stupid? And then when you're the psychics, you're thinking, why am I so stupid?
So yeah, that's Mysterium from Libelud, I think.
All right. Rob, finish us up on this top 5.
Well, Mysterium was up there. But we're on Zoom, and we've all spent a fair amount of time on Zoom. So I'm gonna close this out with a Zoom all-star for me. You can teach it and be done playing it, in minutes. It's just one. Just one. About as simple as it could possibly be. Your little dry erase. You've got a word, and you're writing your clue down, and then you can't match anyone else, and then the one person has to look at this list of clues and try and figure out how they all match. It's just a beautiful, streamlined. Once again, co-ops as a genre, it's a great way to bring in the non-gamer, because you don't have to worry about losing. We're all going to lose, or we're all going to win.
Exactly.
We're all on an even plane. And just one, it's just a hoot. And it's so quick to teach, so quick to play. Works great remote or live.
Oh yeah.
I think Just One also. I think it also wins the award for the game that had the entire game industry goes, how is this not a game already? It came out, we all just went, what?
Our friend Bob Kemp somewhere just pulling his hair out.
Yeah. Oh, Bob. Bob, what did
Clean Slate.
Clean Slate
Blank
is
Slate,
a big one. Blank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blank Slate.
which
Yeah,
is great.
Blank Slate.
We
Excuse me.
love playing that one. We've done that
Yeah.
one on Zoom a lot too. Well, yeah, craziness.
Well, we'll make sure we mention Titania Ascending one again, because that's the main reason we're talking about co-ops tonight, because
Yes.
that is such a great game that we've all enjoyed. Like all three of us were able to get a prototype copy to be able to show off to everyone on our streams and do previews for. And Chelsea,
And
like,
I
looking at
think-
me, it's like,
Justin almost tackled me in the middle of a hallway at
Just
the
about.
vendor hall.
at Origins.
He's like,
She-
give it to me. And I was like, no,
she-
I don't have
Well,
it.
she texted me a picture of it, like in her bag, like she already had it, and like I was like, "What? Give it to me!" Because like she could hear me yelling at her from down the
Bro, yeah,
down the
I
aisle.
can
Because,
literally
like,
good.
hear him.
that's how much I enjoyed the game. I was like, "You got a
Oh.
prototype copy? I need to go get one now." And like even Adam was surprised at how fast we're at the booth again. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was like 4 minutes when she
4
when
minutes
she got
from-
the
yeah.
copy to when I found out. To I'm at the booth like showing, "Hey Adam." So it's one of those games that once you play, you realize just how well the design was done. And so it's all thanks to Brendan and Rob for this design that they brought to it. So thank you for joining us tonight. But before we close out, Chelsea, I know you. This is your section. I'm just going to go
Yeah,
for it.
go
since I'm
ahead.
already
Go for
talking.
it. You're talking.
We like to close this out about a game we've recently learned that we really enjoyed, and then something we look forward to playing. So, Chelsea, do you want to start us off since I took over the
Sure.
lead on this? I'll let you
So-
talk to us first.
We just recently this weekend we played a bunch of Halloween games. We finally beat Horrified. Like it was like our 5th time trying to win, and we won with both, the original one and the American Monsters. But he also played Divey Dice from Stronghold,
Oh, nice.
and it's a flip and right, but it's like little cards, like dry erase cards that you can use, and it's not a sheet. So, and you gotta roll to buy them. So it still has some of the concept where if you re-roll, somebody gets to mark a dice. But my husband hates roll and rights. For me to get him to play a roll and right, he played like a couple nights later again. I was like, do you want to try it again? He goes, yeah, sure. So it was just, and you got to do a 3x3 grid, and whoever finishes the grid first, it triggers the end of the game. So the first time we played, he had like 70 points and I had like 30 because I didn't plan well. But the second time we actually tied. So it's been that was a really unexpected surprise with that game. And then looking forward to I think I picked my game for next game night, so I think it's going to be Fossil. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh,
so
beautiful game.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. I played the digital version, but I haven't had a chance to play the physical version, so I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
So,
Rob, I'm going to have you go next.
Oh boy,
if you're ready.
I'm always ready. So, hot games, new games. Picked up Furnace at Origins, took it home, broke it out right away. That is such a lovely game. Just so like no frills. We're building an engine. We're gonna run it a couple times, and then we're done. Is Chelsea done?
She hates Furnace, Rob.
I guess she really doesn't like Furnace. I'm sorry.
I was trying to mute. I apologize.
I'm just giving you the business. No. But no, it was a great game. And as we were playing, I think everyone was sure they were losing in this first game. And then everyone thought that one person was winning. Mm-hmm. But then this has a happy ending because the person who won in the end is this guy. Who's got two thumbs and one furnace? This guy. But it really just has you focusing on how do I make this engine hum, which is great. And when we say looking forward to play, is it a game I haven't played before? Or is it just something I'm looking forward to play?
It can be anything.
I have. All right, then I'm going to say Furnace made me think of, it's such a sort of pared down engine builder. It made me think of one of my favorite worker placement games. And it just made me want to play Lords of Waterdeep.
Yes.
We're going to place workers and then we're going to do a thing, and then you're done. And then we do that several times, and it's all over, and it was great. So, yeah, it made me hungry for Waterdeep.
Now, you're making me hungry for Waterdeep.
All right, Justin, where do you live? Come on.
I'm in Maryland.
We'll meet in like Erie, Pennsylvania.
Let's do it. I've never played Lords of Waterdeep, so
Chelsea, I'll bring it over. It's
Okay.
one that will never leave my collection either. It's it's like the classic work replacement.
It belongs in the board game Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, for sure. What I've been playing lately, beyond just the big horror weekend we had with Horrified and everything at Chelsea's, the Night Cage is such another great thematic game for the Halloween holiday. I've been learning the solo mode because you actually have to control all four of the people trying to escape at the same time, because I'm planning to attempt to stream it soon. But just getting to play that and relearn just how well that whole map system works and how it wraps itself back around, and trying to keep certain paths lit so you don't lose the way to the gates that you've already revealed. I really enjoyed that kind of spatial aspect of it. And something I'm looking forward to playing that just recently came in from Kickstarter was Seize the Bean. It was actually a game that was on like about 3 years ago. And I backed it. They just had multiple issues with manufacturing and shipping, and it finally came in. But it's a deck builder about basically running a coffee shop in Berlin, of all places. But there's so much variety in the cards, and like almost every card itself has different art. There's almost 600 cards in the game, and the majority of them are all different. So there's so much artwork to like Easter eggs to discover while playing that game. And I look forward to diving into it and seeing how well it plays. Brendan, how about you?
Well, Rob talked about a very simple engine builder with really tight mechanisms. I recently played Anno 1800 with Martin Wallace, from Martin Wallace, which has like 40 different things you can make. And at the end of the game, you're like, I got this one guy, and he's only going to be happy if he gets sausages and a sewing machine and a penny farthing bicycle. And it's a real brain cruncher, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting it to the table again at some point soon. As for looking forward to, with the Titania Kickstarter coming up, we're going to be playing a lot of that. But I think I'm going to squeeze in a game of Bonfire from Stefan Feld, which I picked up as I don't want to pay free shipping. Or I don't want to pay $5 for shipping, so I'm going to buy a $40 game add-on. I'm really excited to try that. I always like a good Stefan Feld game, and I tend to like the ones that are more thematic. I mean, as much as I like Castles of Burgundy, I really enjoyed Aquasphere a lot because it felt like you're doing something specific, whereas Castles of Burgundy feels like a math puzzle or changing. Yeah. But so I'm really excited to see how Bonfire comes out.
Nice. And then last but not least, back to Chris to talk about his game stuff and close us out.
So I enjoyed playing tonight. We played earlier. Beth and I played Similo Spookies, which I like. Similo. It's simple enough that you can introduce it to non-gamers, and it's fun. The Spookies have zombies, vampires, demons, like different kind of creatures and everything like that. And it's perfect for the season. So we played that tonight. Had a good time. Beth is supposedly the better guesser, I say. But
Beth is awesome.
Whatever.
Yep.
All right. So my wife beats me in games, folks. Even when we're playing together and helping each other out, it's a competition. It's crazy. The game though that I'm excited about getting open at some point, and it just came in the mail, is Quest of Yore from the Op. Mm-hmm. Just because it's a D&D based game based on the Quest of Yore storyline from Onward, which I thought was a great movie. So being able to play kind of like that introductory D&D type stuff with my kids, they've enjoyed D&D. We've done a campaign for a charity event, but it was a good way to play, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, well, folks, we want to say thank you again for being on with us tonight. We appreciate it. Rob and Brandon, thank you very much.
A
folks,
pleasure.
Oh, anytime.
It was a delight.
Folks, be on the lookout for Titania Ascending, coming to Kickstarter November 2nd. This is by far an enjoyable experience, one that you'll be kicking yourself when you lose, because you will be questioning, how am I going to get into the next phase? Or how am I going to end the ascension and actually bring back magic to the world? But yeah, be on the lookout for that. And we will see you all next week. What are you doing? You're using the wrong shaker. Oh, hey, Gary. Yeah. No. Shelly took the shaker with her when she left. So I've got my thermos. I'm just kind of using that, and maybe if somebody got the alcohol order right next time. What did you say? Nothing. Yeah, I've got those drinks. I got that martini right here for table 62. Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get some. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Luckily, you don't have to be a bartender to enjoy games like On the Rocks, Kingswood, and Kohaku, all from 25th Century Games. Highly recommend it. Link down below. Oh, and don't forget that 80 rolls of silverware before the end of your shift.
Hey, thanks for watching our video.
If you like what you saw here, go ahead and hit that little like, subscribe, the little bell thingamabobber, you know the thing, and watch some of our videos. Maybe one that's maybe up here, or maybe down there, or over there, or down there. I don't know where they are, but thank you all. Remember, when we can gather at the table, we can do the same for a good cause. Bye.
Bye.